your whole thing about the climate change. Oh, gee, climate change. I'm not even going to go and argue the scientific argument. I'm not. Your solution right now is to tell me we stop all carbon emission, we stop all fossil fuels right now. Right now. But Jordan, what does that mean if we did that? What does that mean if we did that? It means
poor people will freeze in the dark and bake in the sun while they starve.
Thank you. You just signed a death warrant for 1.3 billion people, of them 1 billion black people. Sheesh. And you just told me that Black Lives Matter. So even when it comes to climate, you're full of it.
Wow. Sheesh. She said, even when it comes to climate change, you're still full of it because a whole bunch of black people are about to die from that. And you running around talking about Black Lives Matter. Get the hell out of here.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased today to be talking to Ms. Magatte Wade, who's known for advocating for a prosperous, innovative Africa through entrepreneurship and economic freedom. She is the founder of SkinIsSkin.com, a skincare company that manufactures in Africa and sells products in the US. And
see why her skin is amazing, my gracious.
As a practicing and successful African entrepreneur, can bring her experience to the table when discussing obstacles to doing business in Africa as compared to the US. Magatte has concluded that those who purport to care about Black Africans should support free markets and affordable and reliable energy, including fossil fuels. Her forthcoming book, The Heart of a Cheetah, available soon through MagatteWade.com, will provide detailed suggestions for how to accelerate progress for Africans. She is a blunt, straight talker who has little patience for the anti-capitalist pieties favored by many so-called allies of Black people. Thank you very much for agreeing to talk to me today.
I'm actually looking forward to this because it seems like she is about to be an issue to those who think opposite of her. Because from that one little piece in the beginning, she speaks her mind and she's highly successful, and it seems like she's still trying to do as much as she possibly can for the world. So that's amazing.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. It's a pleasure being here.
So let's start with a bit of your history. Let's talk about your company and where it's founded and how you managed to establish it and what sort of obstacles you did face.
Sure. So whenever someone asks me, Magatte, tell me about your story, I take you back to where I was born in Senegal, the west coast of Africa. And there, my story started with when my parents, right around age 2, I was done with breastfeeding. My mother decided that it was time for her and my father to go and seek better pastures, to afford us a better life back home. And that's when they made the journey that so many Africans make, to provide for a better life for their families. And it's at a time where they decided to migrate from Senegal to Europe. Unfortunately, many people have made the same journey before them and after them. Many, unfortunately, did not make it under as good circumstances as they did, because they could do it in a legal way, which means you can take legal pathways and routes that are not as dangerous as others. So my parents became economic migrants, like many other Africans before them and after them, went to Europe, and of course, managed to build a very good life for themselves. And so they left me behind to be with my grandmother, and right around age 7, it was time for me to be reunited with the family.
Immigrants have such great stories, man. It's like they do so much just to provide some type of better way of life for their families, and those who naturally have certain head starts that they won't acknowledge, they would just sit on them. And no, I won't say they. We tend to sit on them on our natural head starts. And we want to say other people have privilege, whereas if we look at other parts of the world and us being Americans, we have we have certain head starts that other people don't have, man. So it's good to hear these stories, man.
Family unit that my father and mother have, constitute. And so it was decided, now you're going to Germany. And Jordan, I will never, ever forget when I first set foot on that continent, in that country, my first time ever leaving my village. And I just remember being like, wait a second, how come they have that and we don't? And that was, I was just looking around, all of these paved streets. Compare that to unpaved streets back home. I'm walking around, my feet are always dusty, ashy, always have to wash them back when I go home. How come they have that? Meaning, back home, when it's to get a shower, my grandma would have to heat a pot of hot water, put it, on the stove. And when I say stove, it's not, you go into your kitchen and you turn the stove and, the burner comes on. No. It's like she's establishing like a little stove, literally, that's off of the ground, just like when you go camping, where you put the charcoal. So puts the charcoal in, has to get it going, and then she puts a pot of water on it. Then it boils, and then we bring a bigger bucket, put that hot water, mix some cold water to it, and then one of my cousins, stronger, would drag it to the shower area, and there, with a smaller pot, I would then go on to have my shower.
And we still want to complain. We still like to complain. I don't get it.
Compare that now to Germany, and my mom is like, my God, time to shower. I'm like, so you mean I jump in there and I turn the knobs on, this one, and then the water comes down at the temperature I need it? And all of that took a blink of an eye to happen? Are you kidding me? When you walk into the stores, everything is AC'd in the summer, heated in the winter. It's just like this ease of life. I think that's what, as a little girl, I was seeing, this ease of life. What are you talking about? And so eventually that question of a little girl of how come they have this and we don't became with time, how come some countries like mine, Senegal, and other many African nations are poor, while nations like the United States, France, they're rich? How come? How come some nations are poor while others are rich? And it's a question that never left me, and it defined my life.
I hope she got an answer for it, because I've been asking the same questions. And when people point out that Africa is one of the richest continents in the world, and then you think of all of the places there, it's how their government is run, I believe. That's what I believe. I don't listen. Charge it to my mind, not my heart. I don't know a whole lot about politics, but I'm trying to learn. But based off of observation, just me paying attention, that's what I'm gathering. Now, I can be I could be far off, but that's what I'm seeing so far. Their government is just not.
Others are rich. And it's a question that never left me, and it defined my life. That question defined my life.
Well, so let's walk through that, because that is a crucial question. I read a book a while back by a Harvard professor emeritus called The Wealth and Poverty of Nations, and it addresses that very question. And one of the surprising conclusions he comes to is that a huge part of what makes some countries rich and other countries poor is the presence of an almost universal trust in matters of trading. Mm-hmm. And so for him, I think his name was Landis, mm-hmm. the most valuable natural resource is actually trust. Mm-hmm. And I would say also a bit of lack of envy, because with envy, it makes it impossible for anyone to have anything, because everyone else is jealous and angry about it. And
Preach, Jordan, preach, man, because people are envious of so many, man, we're always looking in somebody else's backyard. Knowing good and well that the fact that we have a yard ourselves is a blessing all by itself. But who am I? I'm not judging nobody.
Well, that's one of the pathways, let's say, to wealth. What have you concluded? I mean, you've been thinking about this your whole life, ever since you went to Germany when you were 7. Right.
So I've been thinking about it my whole life and looking for answers my whole life. And as I was growing up and moving around, I heard it from some very people who, with a straight face, will invoke the IQ theory. Oh, darling, it's not your fault, you see. Because in a world where you being black, there is a theory out there that you're just not as smart as white people. I've gone to conferences where there was panels and people talking and making that case. I heard people say, oh, darling, it's just because, malnutrition. You guys are just not well nourished. And just because, others say, oh, if you had access to greater education. And I'm like, you go say that to the countless young Africans in my country, Senegal. The joke is the first job of a graduate is to be a street seller. How many of these people on the street, you see them hustling in between cars in a very dangerous way under the hot sun, and you ask them, what did you study? And they're trying to tell you, I have an MBA in finance, in math, and they're right there doing what they're doing. I was just talking to a person in Swaziland, in Eswatini. It used to be called Swaziland. I mean, beautiful math background. And I said, what are you doing now? Because I'm considering hiring her remotely. And she said, well, I'm raising chickens. All she can do right now is raising chickens. So if you're going to make it about education, you go talk to those people first, and you come back and talk to me about it. And then other people.
I hope people who don't appreciate where they are right now see this right here. It's important. They need to be reminded that things could be a lot worse than they ever thought they could be.
People just, oh, maybe if I give you some free shoes, if I give you some shoes, you'll be better off. Tom's shoes, buy some shoes so that some other people have a better life. All of this nonsense, Jordan, I've been hearing throughout times. But guess what? None of them made any sense to me. Because if you're going to make it also about, let's say, even use the IQ, which I should not even give a minute to. But then how come the same person, same background, same education, let's take even my parents, all of a sudden they make it to Europe, and voila, they can manifest their greatest potential. So I'm starting to think maybe it's not about this person. Maybe there's something else that's not about this person per se in this situation. And then I'm like, maybe it has to do with the place they get to be in or not. And so that was starting to brew in my head. So as all of this is happening, I'm living my little life. From Germany, a couple years later, my family decided we're going to move to France if we're going to stay in Europe for many reasons, because, France used to be Senegal is an ex-colony of France. And then after my business school in France, I decided that France was going to be too small for my ambitions. I got to get out of here. I don't want to be in a country where you have to be, if you make it to the right school, you get the right behind for the right amount of time, then you can hope maybe for some type of promotion. No, that was not for me. I'm not saying that everybody does that, but it was just not a good option for me. So I looked around and I could go anywhere, literally as I wanted. And I thought about the United States, this one country where anyone can become anything they want as long as they put in the work and if that's what they desire to do.
Can you say that again, please? Because I don't think the people in the back heard you. I mean, because they got a whole bunch of gripes. Well, what about 1619? Huh? What about 1619? They'll remind you of that real quick.
And so I came to the US. And when I came to the US, I was first a headhunter in finance in the Silicon Valley in the heydays of a .com. I used to go to Netflix when Netflix was this tiny office in San Jose. Google, when most people didn't even know how to pronounce Google, it was one little building in the Silicon Valley. And so there I got to see all of this entrepreneurship happening. And so, Jordan, this is where at some point something happened, and I'm taking a little detour here, but this detour is so important because I will get you to my answer, because it's right there. So while I was in Silicon Valley, I was pretty much steeped into what they call the ecosystem of the entrepreneur. And just this idea of two people getting together, they have an idea, write it in the back of a napkin. It sounds cliche, but I lived it. I've seen it. And then they go to a lawyer to start their business, to start, the company legally, find some investors, and this whole ecosystem that comes around them. And then I start to be like, wow, this is rather amazing. And I think it's in Silicon Valley that I discovered the magic of entrepreneurship is to create something out of nothing. And that to me was so powerful, so powerful. I was living it in my bones.
I love that. The magic of entrepreneurship is to create something out of nothing. And the systems are set up for you to win as long as you drive it. as long as you run it, as long as you're not afraid, as long as you believe in yourself and you believe in the systems, and you're okay with trusting someone else to be a part of it, because you're not going to be able to do it yourself. Entrepreneurship is your own business and everything, but you gotta trust that other people will can help you get to certain points, as long as you can provide value to them to help them. If that, or it's just a fair exchange, pure capitalism. It's just people believing in themselves. You want to go that way too? I'm moving in the same trajectory. How about we go together? We don't have to go to the same place. We don't have to have the same final destination, but we're moving in the same trajectory, which is up, which is forward, which is positive. We're both optimistic about our futures. How come people can't just do that rather than complaining about what they don't have all the daggone time? That just slows us down.
Amazing. And I think it's in Silicon Valley that I discovered the magic of entrepreneurship is to create something out of nothing. And that to me was so powerful, so powerful. I was living it in my bones. And from there...
Right, but as you pointed out, there are a lot of moving parts in that system, aren't there? Because
Absolutely.
you need people who have an entrepreneurial vision and who think of themselves that way. And then you need a group of people around you like that to talk to. And then you need early stage financiers who are often friends and family who are willing to contribute time, effort, money. And then you need later stage financing. And there is a whole, and the ability to work with customers and the willingness to market and sell. And so all of these pieces have to fall into place before anything like prosperity can beckon.
Can beckon,
So, okay, so
yeah.
you encountered this in Silicon Valley, and what did that do to you?
Yeah, so I encountered that in Silicon Valley, but just before you go, when you were talking about the early...
I gotta say, shout out to Jordan Peterson for he a beast. That's a smooth cat, man. He's a smooth cat. He's not even trying to lead her with the conversation or anything. He see where she's going. He's just pointing out the things, just making sure he encapsulate everything so that it could be nicely fed to the people properly, huh? He make it a cake, huh? Just he stepped in when it's time to step in, then he stepped back out and let her do her work.
That do to you?
Yeah, so I encountered that in Silicon Valley, but just before you go, when you were talking about the early investment in your family and your friends, we like to talk about the 3 Fs: family, friends, and fools. So the fools are very useful there. So in any case, so here I am in Silicon Valley, and and I was doing extremely well for myself. At age 25, I was making 6 figures, bought my home with a pool in one of the most expensive zip codes in America, and I say it more for what can happen in this country. I could never, ever have dreamed of such a life in such a young age, being who I am back home in France. So right there, the American dream does exist. It was real for me, an immigrant from Africa. So, but Jordan, with all of that success,
Hold on. I had to stop it right there because she said the the American dream was real for me. And I am an African. So it takes immigrants to come here and realize our dream. But people who are from here can't realize it because of, no, we need to make things right. They need to remember 1619. What's the one thing to do? He not a good person. I don't care how many people he got jobs. I don't care how much he changed around the daggone economy. He said that there was good people on both sides. That means he racist. We choose to pay attention to some of the dumbest sugar honey iced tea in the world, and we miss out on our blessings, man. We miss out on our blessings, and it's ridiculous. You know what? I'm gonna come back for the next part. Y'all let me know so far what y'all thought about this in the comments below, and if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van. Now we are all the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video because we are going to continue this conversation. All right, love y'all.